Hi, good morning everyone. I am Sharwani. Today, let us discuss about an important endocrinal gland which maintains the basic metabolic rate and which also regulates the temperature of the human body. The gland which abnormalities may have an effect on other systems in our body too. The gland is thyroid gland. Let us discuss about anatomy of the thyroid gland, hormonal regulation, diseases of the thyroid gland, diagnosis of the diseases and treatment modalities. Coming to anatomy of the thyroid gland is situated in three cervical vertebra, that is C5, C6 and C7, along with thoracic vertebra 1. It consists of two lobes, that is right and left lobe. These two lobes are connected by isthmus. This isthmus lies opposite to that of three tracheal rings, that is second, third and fourth tracheal rings. Sometimes a third conical lobe called as pyramidal lobe is also present in the thyroid gland. This pyramidal lobe extends from upper part of the isthmus to hyoid bone. Now coming to the capsules. The thyroid gland consists of two capsules, that is true capsule and false capsule. True capsule is formed by the peripheral condensation of the connective tissue, and this is the true capsule, okay? And false capsule. The false capsule, it is also called as ligament of Berry, okay? It is derived from pretracheal layer of deep cervical fascia. This ligament of Berry extends from posterior medial border of the cricoid cartilage. Coming to arterial supply, venous supply and nerve supply of the thyroid gland. Coming to arterial supply, the arterial supply is mostly of two thyroid arteries, that is superior thyroid artery here and inferior thyroid artery. Okay, occasionally in 10% of the people there is a third artery called as thyroidema artery. Okay, and in these patients, the patients who has the supply of third artery, that is thyroidema artery, the utmost care should be taken, because this thyroidema artery mostly it is very vascular in nature, so care should be taken not to damage this artery. Coming to venous drainage of the thyroid gland. Venous drainage of the thyroid gland includes superior thyroid vein, middle thyroid vein and inferior thyroid vein. These are all the thyroid veins related to the thyroid gland. Next, coming to nerve supply of the thyroid gland. The nerve supply of the thyroid gland is of two types, that is sympathetic supply and parasympathetic supply. Sympathetic supply is mostly of superior, middle and inferior cervical ganglion, whereas the parasympathetic supply is from external and recurrent laryngeal branches of vagus nerve. And the muscles surrounded or covered by the thyroid gland are sternohyoid, superior belly of omohyoid, sternothyroid and anterior belly of sternocleidomastoid. Coming to histology. Histology, just two lines. The histology of thyroid gland mostly consists of follicular cells and parafollicular cells. Follicular cells produce T3 and T4, whereas parafollicular cells produce C cells and calcitonin. In further slides, we will be going to discuss about the hormone secretion and hormonal regulation of the thyroid gland. Okay, now coming to hormonal regulation. Okay, hormonal regulation or the synthesis of hormones mostly is done by four enzymes. Okay, first of all, when the food containing iodine is taken, it is converted into iodide and stored in the small intestine. Once the hypothalamus or anterior pituitary gives signal to the thyroid gland, it is going to uptake the thyroid from the small iodine from the small intestine. Now we'll see what's going to happen. Okay, we discussed that once the signal is given, the thyroid gland is going to uptake the iodine, okay, iodine that is converted into iodide. Now initially we said four enzymes are going to take part in the release of the T3 and T4. This thyroid gland produces three cells, that is T3, T4 and calcitonin. T3 and T4 are produced by four enzymes. First enzyme is iodide trapping. Second is thyroid peroxidase. Third is thioendopeptidase. Fourth is 5-iodinase. Okay. Now we'll see. Whenever the signal is taken by the thyroid gland, that is the signal sent from hypothalamus to thyroid gland, first the iodine trapping mechanism takes place. That is sodium iodine transport. Okay. This sodium iodine transport, what it will do is, suppose think this is a thyroid gland. This sodium iodine importer allows the iodine to enter into thyroid gland. Okay. This is done by first enzyme, that is iodide, sodium iodide importer. Now the iodine is sent into thyroid gland. Next what it is happens, okay, here it undergoes the organification and it forms MIT and DIT with the help of second enzyme, that is thyroid peroxidase. Now MIT and DIT is formed. Okay. MIT and DIT, it unites and forms T3 and T4. Okay. This T3 and T4, these are packed in thyroglobulin. These are packed in the thyroglobulin. What does this thyroglobulin do? This doesn't allows to release the T3 and T4 into peripheral circulation. Now here comes our third enzyme, that is thioendopeptidase. This thioendopeptidase breaks down the thyroglobulins and releases T3, T4 into peripheral circulation. Now T3 and T4 are released into peripheral circulation, right? T3 and T4 with the help of our third enzyme, that is thioendopeptidase. Okay. Now here T4 is biologically inactive, whereas T3 is active. So conversion of T4 to T3 must take place. This is done by our fourth enzyme, that is 5-deiodinase. This enzyme helps in conversion of T4 to T3. Now let us discuss about the range of T4 and T3. Okay. T4, it is 4.5 to 11 μg per 100 ml, whereas T3 is 100 to 160 nanograms per 100 ml. Okay, this is how the release of T3 and T4 takes place. With the help of sodium iodine transporter, first it enters the iodine into thyroid gland, later forms MIT and DIT. MIT means monoiodothyroxine, whereas DIT is diiodothyronine. These two unite and form T3 and T4. These T3 and T4 are packed in thyroglobulin. With the help of our third enzyme, these are released into peripheral circulation. Later T4 is converted into T3 with the help of our fourth enzyme. Okay, this is how the regulation or release of T3 and T4. Okay, now we'll discuss what is T3 and T4. T3 means it is actually biologically active, whereas T4 is biologically inactive. It is active in vitro, T3, and T4 is inactive in vitro. Okay, and the T3 is more potent than T4. T4 is less potent. Third hormones that is released by thyroid gland is calcitonin. Now let us discuss about calcitonin. What is the main function of calcitonin? The calcitonin lowers the calcium levels in the blood. and whereas it inhibits the reabsorption of calcium in the kidney. It also inhibits the calcium absorption by the intestine. It promotes the deposition of calcium into the bones. And we already said in the starting that the thyroid gland abnormalities may also have an effect in the other systems of the body too. Now let us discuss what the thyroid hormones do or what it regulates its function on other glands individually. Basically, its effects include it produces it has the capacity to increase the ATP production, and it has the capacity to increase the cellular metabolism. It has the capacity to increase the body temperature as we discussed previously. Now let us discuss what is the effect of thyroid hormone initially on the heart. It increases the heart rate, it increases the stroke volume, it increases the cardiac output. When coming to respiratory system, it increases the respiratory rate, it increases the minute ventilation. Next, when coming to renal system, the thyroid hormones, we already said that it inhibits the calcium reabsorption from the kidney, and thereby it increases the glomerular filtration rate. The effects of thyroid hormone on the oxygen carrying capacity, it increases the RBC mass, it increases the oxygen dissociation from hemoglobin. The thyroid hormones also act in the oxygen consumption. It increases the mitochondrial size and it increases the plasma membrane, that is sodium potassium ATPase activity. And the thyroid hormone also have an important function in the reproductive system. It helps in maintenance of the pregnancy and it is required for the normal spermatogenesis in males. Now when coming to central nervous system, it enhances the wakefulness and alertness. It enhances the memory and it also enhances the learning capacity. When this is the main, when coming to the growth and hormones, growth and tissue development, the thyroid hormones plays a major role in the maturation of the bone. It also plays a major role in the tooth development and eruptions, and it also plays a major role in the growth and maturation of epidermis, hair follicles and nails. It also increases the rate and force of skeletal muscle too. Okay, now when coming to the thyroid gland, diseases of the thyroid gland, the disease we get into mind and we strike is goiter. Okay, before going into details about the goiter, let us discuss about two important diseases, that is Graves disease and Hashimoto thyroiditis. Okay, and other diseases include thyroglossal cyst, thyroglossal fistula, and adenomas of the thyroid gland includes papillary carcinoma, follicular carcinoma, anaplastic carcinoma and medullary carcinoma. First we'll discuss about two autoimmune diseases, that is Graves disease and Hashimoto's thyroiditis. When coming to Graves disease, it is also one of the diffused form of goiter. It is also called as diffuse toxic goiter. The main three striking features when we just listen the name of the Graves disease is, one is exophthalmos. See here, exophthalmos, and goiter means increase in the size of thyroid gland, and pretibial edema. Okay, next, and the main characteristic feature of the Graves disease is increased vascularity is a striking feature of the Graves disease, and along with that there are many eye signs of the Graves disease, that is Mobius sign, Van Graff's sign and Joffrey sign is also seen in the Graves disease. Okay, and along with that clinical features includes supraorbital and infraorbital swelling too. Okay, now what is the treatment plan for the Graves disease? The treatment plan for the Graves disease mostly includes three. Number one is anti-thyroid drugs. Number two is radioactive iodine. Number three is surgery. Anti-thyroid drugs mostly includes two main drugs, that is propyl thiouracil and carbimazole. Propyl thiouracil is the short-acting drug, and it is a drug of choice for pregnancy people who are suffering from thyroid. Okay, and next, the carbimazole is teratogenic, whereas propyl thiouracil is hepatotoxic. Even though it is hepatotoxic, it is mostly used in the patients, drug of choice for the thyroid patients and even in pregnant people suffering from thyroid. Okay, but carbimazole is not used because it is teratogenic. Okay, now number 2, radioactive iodine. Radioactive iodine, what does it do? It destroys the thyroid cells and it reduces the mass functioning of the thyroid tissue. Okay, but this radioactive iodine is not indicated in pregnant people. Okay, it is only indicated in the people who are above 40 years of age. Surgery. Now coming to surgery, diffuse who the people who are suffering from diffuse toxic goiter and toxic nodular goiter, the surgery is the main option. Okay, before going into surgery, we just if we give the third enzyme, that is thioendopeptidase inhibitors like Lugol's iodine or Ki. Okay, what happens is it maintains the thyroid gland firm, and it also prevents the recurrent laryngeal nerve palsy. So before going to surgery, it's better to provide the Lugol's iodine or Ki so that the thyroid gland will be firm. Now coming to Hashimoto's thyroiditis, it is also one of the immune disease, autoimmune disease, and it is mostly seen in pernicious anemia, rheumatoid arthritis people, and hemolytic anemia patients. The most important feature is Azanki cells are seen histologically, and high titers of anti-thyroid antibodies are detected in the patients. What does this anti-thyroid antibodies do? This destroys the thyroid gland, okay, and thus the making the people easily fatigue, okay, and vitamin D compromising, okay, research. And next is the drug of choice is levothyroxine, is a drug of choice in Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Now, let us discuss about, we already said that the thyroid, the gland hormones have effect in each and every organs. So now let us see. Hyperthyroid, the name indicates hyper means high, and here hypothyroidism. Hypothyroidism means low. So it increases heart rate, it increases the cardiac output, and hypo, it decreases the cardiac output, it decreases the heart rate. The main difference is in hyperthyroidism there is peripheral vascular resistance decrease. Here there is increase in peripheral vascular resistance. Okay, remaining all increase in RAS activity, increasing in RAS activity and tubuloglobular feedback. Okay, here decrease in filtration rate, decrease in RAS activity. Main difference is here all are increased except peripheral vascular resistance. Here in hypo all are decreased except increase in peripheral vascular resistance. Okay, now we'll see what are the signs and symptoms of hypothyroidism people. Signs and symptoms. Okay, it includes mood swings, depression, hearing loss, weight gain. Okay, and here what are the signs? Sparse eyebrow, okay, rapid heart with rate with low force of contraction. Okay, in hyperthyroidism, here intolerance to cold, here intolerance to heat. Okay, nervousness, sleeping disorder like insomnia, hair loss, goiter, fast heart rate or sin. The main important here is what is the effect of thyroid hormones imbalance in the oral cavity. Okay, now hyper, we already know it is means high caries rate, high periodontal diseases, burning mouth syndrome, okay, osteoporosis, Sjogren's syndrome and SLE in hyperthyroidism patients. While coming to hypothyroidism patient, macroglossia, glossitis, delayed dental eruption is micrognotia, xerostomia are seen in hypothyroidism patients. And Excess of hypothyroidism in the children is known as cretinism. Cretinism. Excess of hypothyroidism in the children is called as cretinism. Now just we'll have an idea about what is goiter. Goiter means increase in the size of the thyroid gland irrespective of its cause. There are the types of goiter, that is diffuse goiter and nodular goiter. Euthyroid, hypothyroid, and in nodular goiter we get hyperthyroid. What are the types? We already said simple, toxic and neoplastic. The Graves' disease comes under toxic goiter. See, here is a picture showing about the solitary nodular goiter and diffused thyroid enlargement. Okay. Next, what are the clinical features of this goiter? Whether it may be euthyroid or hypothyroid or hyperthyroid, it is smooth, firm and hard. The main characteristic is it is painless and moves freely on swallowing. Next, what are the investigations here? Investigations includes T3 and T4 and FNAC, ultrasonography, antibody titer. We already discussed that in Hashimoto's thyroiditis there are increased anti-thyroid antibodies. So there we get auto antibody titer. Okay. Isotope scanning like hot, warm and cold nodule. Others include just X-ray, CT scan and MRI. We'll discuss about the nodules. There are three types of nodules: cold, warm and hot nodules in scintigraphy. So what is hot nodules? In hot nodules, the main thing is only the affected part is going to take the isotope. Remaining entire gland is not going to take the isotope. In warm nodules, entire gland along with the affected part is going to take the isotope. Whereas in the cold, except the affected part, entire gland is going to take the isotope. Retrosternal goiter. What is retrosternal goiter? It is mainly derived from multinodular goiter, lower pole of nodular goiter. Okay, it is rare form and there are three types: substernal, plunging and intrathoracic form. The symptoms includes dyspnea, cough and stridor. Thyroglossal cyst. The thyroglossal cyst, it is a cystic swelling which develops on the thyroglossal duct. Okay. And the treatment includes cyst shrink operation. Thyroglossal fistula. This thyroglossal fistula doesn't develop directly. When we are doing the surgery of the thyroglossal cyst, if any infection occurs, then this cyst is going to turn into thyroglossal fistula. Okay. The treatment of thyroglossal fistula also includes the same, that is cyst shrink operation. Now coming to thyrotoxicosis. The name itself includes toxic means excess. Excess production of hormone includes thyrotoxicosis. There are two types, primary and secondary. Okay, the primary toxicosis occurs in young patients, whereas secondary includes in the middle age and elderly people. Okay. Next, primary includes CNS manifestations, whereas secondary includes CVS manifestations. Okay, the goiter is uniform and firm in primary and it is usually nodular and little bit in secondary thyrotoxicosis. Now, let us discuss about adenomas of the thyroid gland. The adenomas of the thyroid gland mostly, that is papillary carcinoma, it is most common carcinoma, that is most common adenoma of the thyroid gland. It occurs 80% and the prognosis is very good here. And pasoma bodies are seen. Characteristic features includes pasoma bodies and orphan-eyed nuclei. And the spread is by the lymphogenous spread, and the organ involved here in papillary carcinoma is lungs. The treatment includes I-131. It radiates the beta rays and it helps in destruction of thyroid cells. Okay, and the treatment also includes near total thyroidectomy. Next, coming to follicular carcinoma. Okay. The diagnosis of the papillary carcinoma includes FNAC. Okay. Now, medullary carcinoma. Here, as we said previously, the diagnosis of papillary carcinoma includes FNAC, but this follicular carcinoma doesn't take FNAC. Okay, and this follicular carcinoma arises from long-standing goiter. It is more common in females and who are above 50 years. Okay, the tumor size is greater than 4 centimeters and the high grade tumor. Okay, and it is long standing and the genes related to it is P10, okay, and P53 and RAS. FNAC is not the diagnostic feature for follicular carcinoma. Okay, and the treatment includes hemithyroidectomy and total thyroidectomy. And the prognosis for follicular carcinoma is poor. Now coming to medullary carcinoma. Medullary carcinoma, it compromises of about 5 to 10% of all the thyroid cases. Okay, and it does not originate from follicular epithelial cells. It arises from parafollicular cells which are neural crest derivatives. Okay, and here the genes involved here is RET gene. Okay, it entirely depends upon the serum calcitonin levels. It does not take the radioactive iodine. Diagnosis includes FNAC and the treatment includes total thyroidectomy. Even the prognosis for this medullary carcinoma is also very poor. Coming to anaplastic carcinoma. Anaplastic carcinoma, it is the most aggressive form of thyroid adenomas, and it mostly arises in the elder age people above like 6 to 7 decades of age, and it looks very firm and whitish in appearance. Okay, and it mostly occurs in males, that is the ratio of males to females is 3:1. We already discussed about the prognosis of papillary carcinoma is very high, and followed by the medullary and follicular carcinoma a little bit low prognosis or poor prognosis. Okay, now the diagnosis depends upon the thyroid scan, scintigraphy and FNAC. Conclusion, for any thyroid glands, the treatment will be three, that is anti-thyroid drugs or else the radioactive therapy and radioactive iodine therapy and followed by surgery. We discussed mostly the drug of choice is propyl thiouracil. Why? Because it is a drug of choice and it is very short acting. Even though it is hepatotoxic, but it is short acting, we prefer propyl thiouracil rather than carbimazole. Okay, thank you.